Let's get to audience questions for the week. First one came in from Amin, who says, hey, David, in light of the recent Trump Republican tax plan, which you've rightly slammed, how would you design a tax plan? With the caveat that otherwise society remains similarly organized, right? Like we still have for-profit healthcare, we still have the educational system that we have, we still have the stock market. So it's a specific question about the tax plan that I would put together. A couple different ideas that I have. Number one, I think we need more tax brackets. I think that actually the idea of reducing the number of tax brackets isn't a good one. And I think that with more tax brackets, we could more precisely define differences between levels of wealth. Having the top tax bracket top out at $400,000 or even $1 million, there are people who are really, really, really wealthy. And we could have higher marginal tax rates for even higher percentages of people's income. And I think that that would also allow for doing away with some of the other loopholes that exist. So I think more tax brackets and higher marginal tax rates on the highest of those tax brackets. I would also make all medical expenses deductible, okay? Right now, before the Trump tax plan, you could deduct medical expenses beyond 10% of your income. Under the Trump tax plan, and this is one of the few things within the Trump tax plan that I agree with, you will be able to deduct medical expenses beyond 7.5% of your income. I actually think that that should either be lowered or there should be no minimum whatsoever. And that is part of the assuming everything else is the same. If we have a for-profit tax system that is mostly employer connected the way that we have, if your employer isn't providing or subsidizing a tax plan that is good enough that you end up spending a lot of money, be that 10, 7.5, or 5% of your income on additional co-pays and expenses, then you should be able to deduct that entire thing. And what that would actually do is it would re-burden, it would shift the burden of improving cost when it comes to healthcare back to the government, because they actually are losing out on revenue as a result of high medical expenses. So I would either reduce or remove that limit, that threshold for deductibility of medical expenses.
What about elective procedures, though? Would that apply as well? Maybe
elective
it depends.
procedures? I don't know.
Like a knee
Maybe
replacement?
not. I guess I'd be open to, wait, which one did you say?
Like a knee replacement?
Oh, no, of course. That's not, I mean, that might be elective, but it's still, I think you're saying more like cosmetic stuff, right? Yeah, no, knee replacement absolutely falls under the medical expenses that should be tax deductible. Plastic surgery, I don't know. I guess I've not thought about it in that much detail.
Okay, so this is like provided that everything else is the same. So that assumes that we don't have a universal basic income.
Exactly.
In that case, would you be in support of like a reverse income tax where if you make, say, less than $20,000 per year, the government is actually paying you? It's kind of like a subsidy in that
I've talked
sense.
about that. Yeah, I'm an advocate of universal basic income, and I also think that a negative income tax in certain situations is a good idea. And when I talk about more tax brackets, some of those tax brackets could be negative. Some of those lower tax, and that's another advantage of having more tax brackets, that you could actually set some of the lowest tax brackets to negative rates, and it would provide a sort of universal basic income. I think we absolutely need to be looking at the taxing of capital gains and passive income closer to earned income tax brackets. And that is a huge boon. And I benefit from this also as a result of owning the David Pakman Show and receiving income through distributions from a business. That is a huge boon disproportionately for the owners of gigantic businesses and the very wealthy who don't really work for a living. So I think that that's something that we need to explore as well. And then I also think that we need to maybe restructure corporate income tax, because by and large, the corporate income tax rate is a ruse that is used as a distraction. And if you restructure that, you can sort of step back from this bogus argument about, oh, if you cut the corporate tax rate, it'll stimulate investment by businesses. No, it won't. I've already debunked that. But if you were to, this is just hypothetical, and now I'm getting more speculative, I'm less sure about this. What if you eliminated corporate tax rates at all, and you made everything pass through and made it so that the people in the positions of deciding what's going to be done with the business profits, they are the ones who would be paying the taxes on those profits. You actually might completely upend the incentive structure we have now for businesses to handle profits the way that they do. Those are some ideas, Amin.
Yeah, certainly an overview of the topic. I mean, I imagine I could understand what your answers would be when it comes to like the estate tax or
Yeah,
the
oh, you've
alternative
got
minimum tax or even sales taxes, which are regressive in some sense.
the 11%, $11 million exemption on the estate tax. You got to get that back down to the 5.5 million as a starting point, period, and then negotiate further from there. No doubt about it.